Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's episode, I'm talking to returning guest Onika about Tales from the Hood. Welcome back to the show, Onika.
Oh, thanks for having me back, Robert. You know, I love coming on.
Yeah, it's always great to have you on. We always have great conversations.
hmm
So,
Well, you know, this time at this point, we're going to have a conversation, and then when we hit a certain part of the movie, it's no longer going to be a conversation, it's now going to be a soapbox.
yeah, it's interesting too because I don't think I've seen this movie since the 90s. And so it's been quite a while. And it's definitely was basically watching it anew because I did not remember
Mm,
anything about it. Um and yeah, this movie's heavy. This movie's very heavy. Um and it makes a lot of sense for the time period that it came out. Um
it
with a
does.
lot of what it's dealing with. Um I know they've made a couple of sequels since, but I don't know that they
The second sequel came out in 2018.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
a
like,
they came out quite a while after for
yeah,
sure.
and don't get me wrong, it's got some incredible talent in it. They're just not as strong. They're not even close. They managed to get there's really not a lot of people who can take the place and stand in the same place as Clarence Williams III and be as like lively and as entertaining as he is in his role in the
Right.
original film. But in the sequels, essentially his role is taken in by like a similar role is Keith David in the second
Yeah.
and Tony Todd in the third.
Oh, interesting.
So so some very very strong talent, just unfortunately not as strong of films, despite the fact that yes, the stories are still very prescient, still very valid, and still very uh important to the time, just not executed quite as well as the first movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that the second one was okay, wasn't as strong, but was okay. And that the third was a little
Bad. It's
bad.
bad.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Um,
Like
yeah.
it's just one the time periods the time period of separation between them, like the first to the sequels, is such a long period of time
Yeah.
that the original has obtained cult film status and is just like on a pedestal in horror movies in general and specifically the Black community. So now when these came along in 20 when the first sequel came along in 2018, it's not that it wasn't relevant. It wasn't that like the message had changed as much.
Right.
It's just it was never going to be the first one. And I don't I don't think that like there was ever going to be like a chance that it was ever going to be as good. And I hate to say that because I think Randy and Darren are wonderful storytellers. I'm sorry, Randy, Rusty. Rusty and Darren are wonderful storytellers. Um, I think like, you know, they do have their fingers on the pulse of the community. Uh, they know what issues are plaguing our community. Um, I just don't think that they were able to uh channel it as well in
Right.
the sequels. And like I'm trying to be as generous as I can because I don't want to slag off the sequels the way I will other
Yeah.
things because I don't hate them. I
Right.
just they're not as good and they're just not they didn't hit the way the first one did. Like they just don't hit in that way. Especially
Yeah.
like as they had come out I don't know. They came out during the height, the during like this beginnings, not really the beginnings, but like during the height of a Black Lives Matter movement. And like it's explicitly said in the second one.
Yeah.
Like Sims, Keith David's character, is told to tell stories, so like as Black Lives Matter as the theme.
Mm,
Whereas that is not how it occurs in the first one, where it's a very more naturalistic storytelling method, where it's just like you see the themes, you see where it's going, but it's not expressly said until the end of the film, and you've already reached that conclusion.
right.
And that's really like how I feel about it. It's just like I understand what he was trying to do. I totally get it, but I just also think that they were also chasing the same feeling as the original film, and
Right.
it just wasn't successful. Um but I like, as I said, this movie's like incredibly important, one, to the horror community, and two, to the Black community, especially because, it's one of our first it's one of our first horror films. It's one of ours, and it's not a um Black exploitation film uh in the way that it was defined in that era. It is
Right.
very much a out and out horror film. It is not it's satirical in places, of course, but it's not like a straight out satire that's leaning extremely hard into um uh tropes and stereotypes about the community, whereas it is more specifically addressing concerns in our community.
Right. Yeah.
um
No, and I think that that goes really into the time period that this came out. Because in the 1990s, there was, and as I mentioned in my last episode, on the people under the stairs, that, um, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of this. The Black community, especially in Los Angeles, was dealing with a lot of um, the the racism. I mean, that they always dealt with, but like it seemed to be even more so. And then the crack epidemic was hitting hard. Gang violence was becoming a much bigger thing, at least in terms of wider recognition. People were becoming more aware of it due to the news expanding and stuff like that. And then the Rodney King stuff and everything else that was going on during that time period. It led to a lot of movies coming up, stuff like Boys in the Hood and the works of Spike Lee at the time. And so there was this rise in Black cinema by Black filmmakers,
mhm.
and telling stories that were more honest and true to their experiences and to the experiences of other people that they knew and in their neighborhoods and communities and such like that. And so I think that's what's interesting about this movie is this movie takes all of that as this setting and adds this like layer of supernatural horror to it. But when you break it down, the real horror isn't anything that's supernatural in any of this. It is the real life stuff that's going on. And so I
Yes.
found that to be a very interesting concept that they did with this for um like for the movie itself, in creating this horror story, that the horror wasn't necessarily the supernatural aspects, even though that does play a part in each one of these. So I found that to be very like intriguing in terms of what the movie is saying in the large scope of things.
No, I absolutely agree. And I also feel like because of movies like this and Death by Temptation,
Yeah.
it led to later films like Bones, um,
Right.
things like that. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Bones or heard of
Oh
it.
yeah. I own it.
Okay, I was about to say, okay, because like some people, I'll bring it up and they'll just be like, "What are you talking?" And I'm like, "You've never seen the horror movie that stars Snoop Dogg from 2001?" It's not the greatest, but it's a
No.
very entertaining film. And like,
Yeah.
despite the fact that, we we as the community right now have washed our hands of Snoop, um,
Yes.
still a very valid film to be seen.
Yeah. No,
Um,
absolutely.
but it's very funny because I've seen Tales from the Hood, a fair few times throughout my life. Um, it's just funny because like Corbin Burnson, who's in it, it it firmly cemented him as a villain in my head because I saw it relatively young, and no
Yeah.
movie that I've seen has ever, or TV show for that fact, has ever dissuaded me from that fact. Like that show Psych came out where he plays the main character's father, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I am biased against you, but at the same time, he's a terrible father in that show. And I don't understand like the redemption arc he gets because
I
he
love
doesn't
that show.
deserve it.
So,
Me too. I love it too, but I think he's the worst father.
oh,
Gus is
he's
the best
definitely not
character.
great. No, no.
Like, they really run a little roughshod over the fact that what he did was very severe child abuse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, here's the thing though. I think, and here's our first tangent. And so I think that
There's
with
always
that,
one.
yeah, well, there'll probably be more. There's he is he's never portrayed as being a good father. Like that's my
No,
thing about it though too, is that the show clearly shows that he was terrible at what he was doing, like how he treated Sean, and that that his son became he ended up using the things that he taught him in a way, but in his own way, and that as much as it like went against the what he wanted, he eventually found his way and everything like that, despite what his father did and everything. Um, so I do think that that was what was good about that show is it never portrayed uh his character in a like in what he was doing as a positive thing.
when they
Uh,
were actually addressing it, because after a while
yeah,
it kind of gets, because the show went on for a while, they kind of
yeah,
stopped addressing it. And like,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I don't hate the show. I love that show.
yeah. It's hilarious.
It was one of my favorite shows on TV when it was like on air. I never missed an episode.
Oh
Um,
no, yeah.
so like never like that and Burn Notice. Um,
I did watch Burn
you
Notice.
know why.
I watched Burn Notice for at least 2 years. And then like I don't know what happened. I dropped off of it and never got back to it. I've been meaning to go back to it and rewatch because I did like the show. It was very good. And
There is one
Bruce
there
Campbell is in it. So
Yeah,
it's like
that's why
his
I watched
other
it.
than Ash, it's his other major character. So
He got a spin-off movie for that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but
It's hilarious.
there is one episode that like my husband is like absolutely obsessed with. I think we've watched it, just that episode, a million times. And it is probably one of the most interestingly written episodes because Michael, the main character, pretends to be the devil. Like, literally, he is making it out to be that he is quite literally the devil. And it is just somehow like the most entertaining and yet most satisfactory like episode because the person that he does it to 100% deserves everything that comes to them. But
Right.
the hit like God, want to call him Michael Weston all the time, even though that's not his name. We've
Jeffrey
discussed this
Donovan.
before. Yes, Jeffrey Donovan, even though he's in a ton of things I like.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
like
one of the
he
characters in
like
Book of Shadows.
yes, and Villains, which is an amazing movie.
I haven't seen that one.
Um,
I don't think.
it's with Micah Monroe, Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, I've heard of it,
Um,
but yeah, I haven't seen that one.
and like it's really good. I love it. And you know me, I'll just go for in on anything with Micah Monroe and Bill Skarsgård. Um, 10 toes down, with the exception of the hand that rocks the cradle. I tried. Um, I
I
can't
haven't watched it
watch
yet. It's
movies
on my
like that.
list.
I can't watch movies like that. I realize like I can't watch movies like that. Um,
Yeah.
no offense to any of the actresses in it because I wanted to watch it for them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
like
Her Micah
just
Monroe and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I mean, that sounds
yeah,
like
but
a
Jeffrey
great match.
Donovan like probably like he acts his ass off that entire show.
Yeah.
It's probably the best example of his acting in that show. Like he
Oh yeah.
owns that episode so hard. But anyway, sorry. I
Yes.
can't we have reached USA shows.
Yeah.
Um,
All right. So
but anyways,
let's circle
because
back.
yeah, let's return to this. But yeah, I can't help think about like just because of this, it Corbin Burnson has always just been a villain in my head. And
He
like
plays good villains, I will not lie. He plays very good
he plays
villains.
a lot.
So
Um and it's just it's funny because I actually think I watched a recent horror movie. I can't Marshmallow. There was a movie called Marshmallow. It's up on Prime, where he plays a grandfather, and he appears to be a fairly good grandfather, a loving one. He also dies 5 minutes into the movie, so you
mm,
know.
spoilers. Uh
Oh, trust me, it's not. He's
no,
not
I mean
really
5
that
minutes in.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just on
And it's
another
really funny
show.
because there was another horror movie where he did the same thing where he was like a grandfather or a dad or something, and he just wasn't in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, he was just in another show called Duster not too long ago that was on HBO Max, where he was playing another kind of not the best dad. So it's just what he's good at.
Then again, USA was just like utilizing him a lot
Yeah.
back then because he was also in like the what's the it's like it's not a documentary, it's like a fictionalized version of a documentary of a real person. There's a very specific name for it and I can't think of what that's called. Um
Oh, I don't know.
but he played like one of the Johns in the movie that USA made about Heidi Fleisch, one of the like
Oh, yeah,
original
yeah.
madams.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like I was just like ew. Um because like she's an incredibly fascinating woman to learn about, but like
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, don't make me look at that. I'm like 13.
Yeah.
Why is this on during prime time?
Because it was HBO.
See, I was well, no, this was on USA.
Oh, yeah, USA. Okay. Yeah.
I was about
I
to say
mean,
this is on basic network cable during prime time when it feels like something that should be on like after dark programming.
that's
But
funny.
anyway, but yes, so yeah, we could move to the actual events of the movie.
Yeah. Um, so this starts off with these three gangbanger guys coming up to or drug dealers, gangbangers, um coming up to this funeral home to purchase some drugs from the uh um uh mortician that lives there.
Yes,
And
Mr. Sims.
Mr. Sims, played by the wonderful Clarence Williams III. Um, which I know him predominantly as being Prince's dad in Purple Rain.
Mm.
That's the only place I
Fair,
know it,
fair.
like I really knew him from. But apparently he was really big at one point because he was on the television show The Mod Squad in the 70s. So
Yeah.
but that predates me just a little bit. Um, but yeah, so he's very weird and eccentric, and he starts telling them tales of the dead people that are in this mortuary, rather than getting strictly to business. And so we get our first tale of um these cops who stop this guy and end up beating him and killing him. And turns out he's a city councilman and a black rights activist, who's been trying to clean up the police corruption. And
Hmm.
the only cop that's there, that's black, doesn't want to have anything to do with it, and he's trying to stop it. And then they end up, you know, getting him to back off or whatever. And because his partner's like, "Hey, you don't want to be doing this. You're gonna get in trouble." Blah blah blah. And so a year later, he's no longer a cop. He's drunk, and he's like getting like he's hearing the voice of this guy, Martin Morehouse, and he wants him to bring the cops to him. And so he brings the cop. He manages to trick the cops kind of into going to this guy's grave, and that's when he comes out of the grave and starts punishing these cops. So
Hmm.
um, so it really this one really has to do with like police violence, especially towards black people. And while there is this aspect of him rising from the grave and getting his unholy vengeance on all of them, it really like, which is great, it's cathartic in a lot of ways, because these guys are really shitty people. And so it's but I do, again, I like that this is dealing with like real world issues in a way to um tell these stories. Well, sure, having a little fun with the supernatural aspect of it, but I think it's a like a really good mix of it, because it like, especially in terms of audiences who may not be aware or may not specifically go looking for movies like Boys in the Hood for that kind of gritty, realistic drama about what life is like at that time. Then this is a good way for those audiences to kind of go, okay, let me watch a fun horror flick, and then to get these social issues kind of put into it in a way that's, I guess, palatable for some people. um but so I thought this was really well done, and um interesting. I mean, he even the reanimated Morehouse
Morehouse.
even, yeah, kills the, or I don't know if he kills, I can't remember. Um
He drives
he
us Smith crazy.
punish Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he drives him crazy because he's like, you could have done something then, not now. It's too late now. Yes, I got my vengeance on them, but you could have stopped them before they killed me. And so even he gets punished for his complicity in it, which I thought was interesting. So,
Mhm. Well, it's funny because, well, it's not funny. There is a saying amongst the black community, running into a white cop is bad. It is worse to run into a black cop because they've got something to prove and they
yeah.
will treat you worse. And it's funny because a lot of people outside of our own communities did not have the realization of this uh phenomenon within our own community, um until the biopic, that's it, of for fuck me, what is it called? It's banned. Oh my God. I I am losing my black credibility as we speak. Oh my God. Um, but there was a biopic regarding a musical group. Ice-T, Eazy-E.
Oh,
That just
Straight Outta Compton.
it's thank you.
NWA.
Cannot, yes, I don't know why. Like I just blacked out on something that I like. There is literally a poster in my living room.
And it was Ice Cube, not
My
Ice T.
Yes. Oh my God. Ice-T was a completely different thing. I think it's
Yeah.
like I had a moment of like one cop killer and then, fuck
Yes.
the
Yeah.
police, where it's just like like reactions very similar to the point of being banned from cities. Um,
Yeah.
just one of them, my mother literally attended some shows and went backstage for, and one my
Mm.
mother did not. And it was Ice-T who my mother went backstage for all of that. Like she was just like, yeah, I remember when they got kicked out of here. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, was there like an occasion that you weren't part of? And she's like, yes.
That's funny.
Like these stories just pop up out of nowhere with her. It's one of the reasons why there's so much NWA like merchandise about our home. Um, but regardless, like people did not know that that was a thing until it was expressly said in Straight Outta Compton. Um, where it's like like running into a black cop is so much worse
That's
sometimes
interesting
because
though, because I
they
know
want to
I heard,
prove something.
yeah. No, and that's interesting though, because I heard that way before that movie came out. So
Well, there's a lot of things. Robert, you have like friends and like talk to people
true,
outside of
true,
your racial community. You have interracial
true,
friendships, whereas like there is like people don't understand that like interracial like relationships are far more common like these days, but a lot of people stay within their interracial groups and like, they don't branch outside of it like a lot because it's just
true.
like where your social circle is where your social circle is. Um, but like, you know, you may not hear like internal stories like people not knowing about like a lot of certain historic events until the Watchmen TV show, not knowing that
Yeah.
there was actual events that happened in real life.
No. But
Or like
that's go ahead.
like
Sorry.
we had spoken before about like the ending credits of Candyman,
Oh,
where
yes.
all of those are real examples of real things that happened to people in our history, and people don't know that those were not fictionalized. Those were
Right.
real things. They did yes, a child was put on death row and was electrocuted, put in the electric chair. A child.
Yeah.
It's just like those are real things that happen in our community, and people do not know about that. And it's just like, so there are things that people just do not know that they get introduced to through media. And usually, like, it ends up having to be a conversation. I'm sure if the internet was as prevalent as it is now, we might have had a similar conversation regarding Tales from the Hood. Probably
Yeah.
not, because the movie didn't do well upon release and it's now a cult film, but you get my point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I feel like it didn't do well because it was like a very black film, and it was not the kind
Yeah.
of black film that people were looking for. Even though it does carry a lot of the inherent traits that we have been trying to move away from.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the black trauma narratives, which of the time, it is important to discuss these things, and I don't hold any ill will towards the movie for existing in the time that it did, because it was an important thing to happen. Um,
No,
but now
absolutely.
that but now that we have moved forward so much in terms of cinema, so much information is available, we should be allowed to tell stories that don't center around our trauma.
Right.
But
Yeah.
this is one of those movies where it's needed. Like
No,
it's
this movie,
specifically the point.
and this is what makes the movie interesting in a lot of ways too, because again, you have to consider the time that it came
Mhm.
out in that mid 90s era where these movies were just becoming a thing. And black voices were finally being heard in a way that they hadn't been heard before. And so that's what makes this movie especially interesting. This movie's filled with black trauma. Um, and
Mhm.
it's a hard watch for me. I mean,
It's a hard watch.
it is
It
a
is.
I can't imagine anybody watching this nowadays and just like quote unquote enjoying it. Like it's a good movie. It's got a lot to say. It's got some interesting sequences and stuff like that, but I don't know how it's an enjoyable watch. It's just me.
We'll get to it, but there's a very
Yeah.
specific part where it's just like all fun in this movie is now gone.
Yeah.
You cannot
Yeah.
have fun after a certain point in this movie. There is no fun to be had here. Uh,
Yeah. And I think it's
you
interesting.
know, it's just like
Go ahead.
Claire can turn into the devil all he likes, and it can be campy as shit. You have already been traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No.
but
It's definitely a
it's
very traumatic movie.
very important. It's very and like it's a conversation not only to the non-black community but to the community ourselves, and it's a conversation that I have discussed with you. I am willing to have interracially,
Yes.
but not so much interracially, and we will get to that. We will get to it when the time comes, because there's there's quite a bit that I want to discuss about one of the segments.
Right.
But there's, in regards to like the first segment, Rogue Cop Revelation, it's also just one of those things where it's like it's the what we've heard so many times before in the events of police officers performing acts of violence against the community. On top of the fact that, like, we frequently want to ignore the history of how the police force was formed in the first place, why it even exists
Yeah.
at all. Like, on its bones, to its marrow, deeper than deep, it is an anti-black, um, racist institution. It was formed to catch slaves.
Right.
That is the
Yeah.
basis of the police system in the United States of America. And so, to its bones, broken down to the slightest atom, it is only meant to enforce white supremacy. And so when we hear that narrative consistently of it's just a few bad apples when a cop acts out like this, and it's just like it feels like you are ignoring that adage in its entirety of a few bad apples spoil the bunch, but the problem is the whole tree is rotten and it's down to the roots. It's
Yeah.
just like it's not a few bad apples. The whole institution is a problem, and it's built that way. There is no incentive for it to change because there is no real repercussions for the system as a whole. Like,
Yeah.
yes, an individual action. Smith gets his comeuppance. He's driven out. He is held responsible for the deaths of the white cops who performed the actual murder. But at the day that they killed Morehouse, he stood there, he did nothing.
Yeah. Well, and
And
this just goes to
while
show
he
that this
was
has been going on for so long. Like we're talking about, and not we're talking about in this day and age, you're looking at the what's going on with law enforcement now. Nothing has
mhm,
changed. So
nothing's changed. I remember when we went to go see Straight Outta Compton, um, I went in I went in with a white person to see the film. My bag was searched. Just mine. Just
wow.
my bag. And I'm sitting there and I am watching this movie, and it's movie events that happened when before I was born and when I was a small child. And I am saying not a goddamn thing has changed. Nothing is different. And it's just like, and you see movies, this movie is from 1995. Tales from the Hood is a movie from 1995. Ain't a
Yeah.
damn thing changed. Nothing's different. No accountability. The only thing The only reason that Richmond and Hauser, the cops who actually committed the murder, get any comeuppance is because of a zombie.
Yeah.
Um, while we may see, and these days it's just like it's special circumstances where any of these people are held responsible for their actions. Yeah, the man who killed George Floyd went to prison, but I can give you a whole list of cops who are still on the goddamn force who have killed black men and did not. There's all those cops in the NYPD who wore those fucking I can breathe shirts, who still are on the force today after a man was murdered on the street and we saw it.
Yeah.
I Nothing is different. And when you
No.
watch a movie like that, when you watch a movie like this now, all you can feel is anger. Like it's just like people ask me like, you're so angry, and it's just like, give me a reason not to be angry. Yes, I'm angry all the time because I see what's happening in the world beyond just my own community, which is devastating in of itself, but so much further than that. It's just like nothing's changed. Nothing gets better. Like small things, we're given pieces of better. We have shown that it can be better, but we stop before actually putting in the work to make it better fully. Like right now with our whole issues with reproductive rights. We should not be in the position that we had. This should have been codified. We shouldn't be fighting this fight because we already fought it.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to keep fighting the same fights every fucking decade.
No.
Nothing
Not at all.
changes. And you watch a movie like this, and when you realize nothing changes, it's just like it's so much more than just a fictional horror. It is the real life horror that hits you the hardest.
Yeah.
That that you are looking at a fantasized version of your life, of the world you live in, and it's just like is no zombie to take revenge. There's
Yeah.
just us. And we don't have as much power as I wish we did as individuals under a democracy to make the changes that we should because we have a militarized police force that does not have a problem gunning us down in the street. Not just black people. They will take you out if you're white too.
Yep.
If you may, it's just like because you want to know it, at the end of the day, it's still a class thing.
Yeah.
It's just like there is no war but class war. It's
No,
just like at the end of the
absolutely.
day, we are all on the same level. If we are poor, we are right in the same gutter together. And I'm
Yep.
not going to go into the whole, we need to overcome our racial lines to find class solidarity. We do, but there's a lot of other stuff that needs to be worked on before we'll ever be comfortable enough to ever meet that class solidarity because there's just, the way that the system has existed as
Yeah.
it
The
does to
system
empower
itself is so.
whiteness. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely agreed.
It's just like we can't get to the point. As I was telling you, it's just like I can't talk to you about the collective boot that's on our neck until you get yours off mine.
Yeah.
It's just like we can talk when you take your boot off my neck, and then we can talk about the collective boot on our neck. But you have to step off first.
Yep.
We have to be at the same level to have this conversation, and so many people are unwilling to give that inch, and it is an inch. It is not
Well,
much. People
because
do
it's
not
it's
have as much leverage as they think they do, but they are so unwilling to give it up.
well, and the really ridiculous thing about it is that ultimately this is what people do not understand, that this is not a racial thing. It is completely, like you said, a class thing. And until people realize that and figure out that the people in charge of things are the rich and the powerful, that until that happens, until any kind of change on that level happens, this will be how it is. This has been how it is for thousands of years. Nothing has changed. We are all under the boot of the the powerful, the rich, and everything else. And until we all figure that out and all agree, hey, guess what? It's not black people taking your jobs away. It's the rich people taking your jobs away. You're a moron.
It's one
And
of those
so
things. It's like I have more in common with some person in Appalachia, who is
yeah,
living in like squalor. Like me and them are on the same level, regardless of our skin tone, than I do with Jay-Z.
yeah. That's
Like it's
that's
just like
that's I
Jay-Z's a
wish
black
people would
capitalist. He
understand
doesn't
that.
care about me.
Right. Yeah. That's it's just yeah. And that's again, I think that's why a movie like this is important as because again, there's going to be a lot of people, especially white people, who are not going to go and watch black movies. They're not going to go see, you know, the movies that came out in the 90s. They're not going to go see the movies that are out now that speak to these experiences because it's not their experience. They have no desire to do that. I mean, we live in such a white society that most of the movies are about white people, and what isn't about white people is very seldomly breaks out.
Yeah. Are
um
you white or
and
are you political?
yeah, and so it's so when a movie like this comes out that's like, oh look, it's a horror movie, look, it's something where it's a little bit more um easier to digest for people in this way, and so they can then experience, oh wait, this is what's going on. Maybe this will kind of wake them up a little bit, and I
We actually saw the phenomenon, like
yeah.
in real life, like in our lifetimes recently, like, in terms of recent, the last decade or so, with Get Out. We watched as
Mm-hmm.
other people, as people who were not black, saw the movie, engaged with the movie, and got like, and the ones who had a significant amount of brain power. And just sorry, I'm just recalling a guy who told me that the movie was just about body swapping and it wasn't that deep. And it's just like, oh
Oh
wow,
my
you
God.
really didn't you did not engage with this film even tangentially.
Oh, wow.
But it's just like we watch people engage with it, and like I have I bring this up every single moment where it's just like, you like, the world knows what's happening to the black community. They just don't want to acknowledge it because it's a painful thing to look at. You don't like to look at it because it's ugly, it's messy, it's not nice, and it's easier to close your eyes. But when they were watching Get Out, and at the end when they see that cop car, every single person in that theater did not feel relief. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh God, no.
Yeah.
And the relief came when you see it's Rod.
Yeah.
And it's just like, like you fundamentally know, because as soon as all of you saw that cop car and you felt that stab of dread in your stomach deep, you know that that was not somebody who's going to save Chris. That it
Yeah.
was just, it's like, after all this, he's going to die.
Well,
And the
and then
relief that
that's
it's not a cop.
yeah. Well, that was the original ending to that as
It
well. That he
was.
was arrested
Hmm.
and it didn't do well in test screening, so they went for the happier ending.
Yeah.
Um,
And I am
because
glad
I
that
mean,
they did.
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think everybody needed that cathartic ending because otherwise, I mean, that was just like that movie was already so intense, and then to have it end on that, um, um, I get the reasons for doing that to be more reflective of reality and everything, but it's like, man, we need something eat like to ease off. And I mean, he even agreed, obviously, because he ended up doing it that way. But it's still just like, holy hell, man! Like, we really need
Yeah.
to have that kind of catharsis in something like that so that we, everybody can relax at the end there. And that's not to say every movie needs to do that. There's
No, because
nothing.
there are movies that
Yeah,
don't.
there are definitely movies that have those downer endings, and you're just like, okay, yeah, that's just how things go. But I'm glad that that one didn't. But that,
Yeah,
yeah, but I
it
mean, but
was just
that's,
like I need it not to.
yeah,
I need Chris to be okay after watching him and empathizing with him and feeling what he's feeling, not as a black man, but as a human being.
yes,
I
yeah,
need him to be
absolutely,
okay. Because
yeah,
that was what I think was one of the most brilliant things about Get Out was Chris's characterization. All of Chris's issues and faults and problems are so human. They are not
right,
specifically a black issue. They are human issues. Trouble with smoking, being concerned about meeting your girlfriend's parents. Uh,
yeah,
I mean, the racial stuff is a big part of that, but um, this guilt that he carries about his mother, those are not black issues, but
yeah,
because he is black, they are exploited against him. They are
yeah,
specifically used against him because he's black, where it's a good commentary about how issues that are human issues that you can see in any human being, any community, when you are black, it is different. That is the whole of you. Because you are black, all these negatives are what is the whole of you instead of just being a human experience.
yeah,
We use the humanity of people against them specifically when we can racialize it and make them a scapegoat. And we have seen this time after time after time again with Black people, Jewish people, Muslim people. We see it all the time. A very human response, a very human feeling, but because you are a racialized minority or a religious minority, in terms of Jewish people, it's both. Um, that is all you are, and all your issues are contained within that state, and it's just a good point to make. And I think that actually brings us like to the second story in Tales from the Hood. Actually, a really good way because that is a very specific story. The bully story and the
mm-hmm.
abuse storyline. That is not just a black story. That is a human
Oh,
being story.
absolutely, yeah, no, that one is probably the most like accessible, I think, to all audiences in terms
Mhm.
of what's going on because of the bullying that this kid is having. His teacher and the nurse see the bullying, like see the um this bruise around his eye. I think it's this bully that he had an encounter with, and discovers that no, it's probably not from the school since he just joined and the bruise looks older. And so the teacher talks to him and finds out that he's drawing these pictures, and if he destroys the picture of it, then supposedly it gets rid of the monster.
Mhm.
And you see a scene that comes up not too long after that where he's crumpled the paper and he's broken all the bones in the bully's body. Just suddenly all
Mhm.
of his bones broke. Um, and that leads into the teacher going to his house later that night to go talk to his mom and to find out what's going on. And you discover that he's got a very evil stepdad who is the quote unquote monster in the movie. The kid sees him as this literal monster, but he's just a human. Um,
Yes.
and
And I would say that like and I feel that you would agree with me. It feels like this segment really did inspire the film Mr. Crockett.
Yeah, I could see that. And that's what
Like in
I was going to
ways.
mention too. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I can see that being an inspiration for it. And that's what I was going to say too, is like a movie like this also probably helped inspire Jordan Peele's work as well, because this is a movie that plays in this, supernatural world with but has all of this stuff that's set in black communities, and it's the same with what Jordan Peele has done as well, and so especially in Get Out. Um, so I was going to mention that before, but yeah, I think this movie or this segment, like we said, is the most human because we have all heard of or all experienced abuse, and so there is something in this that that is relatable to us all. So,
Yeah, the it's one of those horrors in the humanity situations, and I would say that and honestly, the whole film is very much horrors in the humanity, like I said, because like when you have a certain level of awareness of the world around you and you see those reflections, the horror is not so much what's on the screen, but is what reflection you see there. Um, but in this, like there is, and I'm going to speak candidly about this because it's something that like, I actually was thinking about when I first watched Mr. Crockett. Um Admittedly late. I wish I had been on that train a little sooner, but you know me.
yeah, same.
I am I'm a busy bee in terms of like, a bunch of standalone projects and films have not watching movies is not so much as I'd like. I don't get to see as many as I'd like to. Um let alone in theater. Uh but having watched that, like there is in the Black community, and I cannot speak specifically regarding the white community, how their conversations about physical discipline within the home
Hmm.
uh, exist. But there is this pervasive narrative that you must hit your children in Black homes for them to behave. We are working on it as a community. We are trying to stop that mindset and realize that it is harmful. We are hurting our children. We are not benefiting them in any way, shape, or form. Um,
Right.
but like the I feel like because uh Rusty and Darren are Black men who grew up as Black boys in Black households, they have seen the like this applies to girls too, don't get me wrong. Um, but this very toxic masculinity that also applies in these situations where it's just like be a man and take your beating.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to be a man. Girls get it for different reasons. You're too fast, acted too
Yeah.
grown, talking back too much. That's a whole other issue. Um, and trust me, it's an issue that I could talk about all day. But like you see it in the beginning of Mr. Crockett, whereas the stepfather is abusive, horribly
Yeah.
so. And the mother, instead of engaging in it and helping her child, she runs away. She hides in a bedroom, knowing that her son is being abused.
Right.
And she knows that she'll get it too. So she just leaves her son behind. And it's very much the same, very similar situation in the segment Boys Do Get Bruised and Tales from the Hood. Um, Sissy, it would get it too.
Hmm.
Sissy will get it. And because Sissy does get it, when she tries to intervene, he hits her with a
Yeah.
belt. And it's just like it's the thing is we have to take this ideal and we have to just like in the movie we have to take it, ball it up and throw it away. We can't let our children live under these ideals where this is okay. Abuse in the form of discipline is still abuse. It does not make your child better. It does not make them healthier. It
No.
does not make them behave better. It makes them sneakier. It
Yep.
traumatizes them. And it's just like, I hear all the time, I got hit and I turned out okay. And it's just like, now when you say okay, do you mean that you haven't committed a crime? Is that just okay for you? Because it's
Right.
just like, it's just like, because you flinch when you see somebody
Yeah.
move out the side of your eye. How do you engage with your own emotions? Do you talk about them?
Yeah.
Can you acknowledge any emotion in you that isn't anger? Or is that all you know how to feel? It's just like you didn't turn out okay. You survived. That's a
Yeah.
different thing. And I am speaking on this as somebody who grew up with an abusive father. My father was not abusive in the same ways that you would see in Boys Do Get Bruised, because this is very much specifically supposed to be male centered. A lot of this movie is male centered, and I understand
Oh
because
yeah.
Rusty and Darren are speaking from their own personal experiences as black men. So where they are coming from is they are speaking entirely as their experiences with black men, and it's centered in that narrative. And I have no issues with that. Like I'm not holding it against them. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just like I was abused in a different way by my father. And I didn't get a belt. I got a purse strap.
Mm, yeah.
Leather. Thin, hurts like hell.
Yeah. It's
And that was
very
not the worst of
whip-like,
it.
which is not
Hmm.
great.
And not the worst of it either. That was not the worst of the things that happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
just
and
like,
I
and
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I
Yep.
spent
You're good.
most of my life burying that deep down.
Yeah.
Like despite my resentment for my father, I always he bailed out when I was younger, and I focused a lot of my resentment on the abandonment more so than the abuse, even though the abandonment was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but because his presence was dangerous. Um, but like I only had to come to terms with that because I had to examine my relationships with men as a whole, interactions
Right.
with men as a whole, especially as a person who got married um to a male presenting person. How I reacted to him not even raising his voice in anger, but just raising his voice.
Yeah.
Uh Things I see out of the side of my eye, uh the way that I, you know, react to how I feel if he's upset with me, and I feel that he's upset with me all the time, even though he has not done or said anything that would end it. But the slightest tone change, it's just like that's a red flag. Something's wrong. I have to fix it,
Yeah.
capitulate to the need.
It
And it's just
warps your
like,
perception. Yeah.
yes, it changes. Like people don't understand. PTSD, which is what a lot of people have,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to this poster, it changes the way your brain works, and it changes it permanently. The way your brain works is permanently altered. It's not that
Especially when it's
there's,
done to you when you're a child, because that's when your
yes.
brain is still growing and learning and everything like that. And if that stuff is done to you when you're a child, that is, you know, trauma that never leaves, no matter what
Oh.
you and no matter what you do to do it. I did not get abused. Like I did get spankings,
Hmm.
but that was short-ish. I didn't get very many, but like you said, I learned how not to get in trouble. I didn't stop doing bad things. I just learned how to not get in trouble for it. And so that changes things as well. Now, I've never spanked my children. I
Hmm.
thankfully now I will admit we swatted them like once and we felt bad about it and we were like, "Oh, okay, that'll never happen again." And because we wanted to be different than our parents because we knew that didn't one, it didn't work. And two, it's just abuse no matter what. You should never hit your kids no matter what. There's no reason to hit a child ever.
Yes,
And
because
so,
one of my favorite things to layer onto this, and it's just like, as an adult, when you are at work and somebody does something you don't like, do you hit them?
right.
If
I mean,
somebody
some
you
people
are
do.
working with, yeah, but when somebody at work, your coworker makes a mistake, do you hit them for that mistake? No, you
Yeah.
don't. When you're working and if you made a mistake at work and your boss was just allowed to tear your ass up, would that be okay? No.
Yeah.
A person
Yeah, exactly.
who has power over you should never lay their hands on you, but people who abuse their children, who strike their children, do not frequently do not recognize their children are people. They are not objects. They are
Yeah.
people. That is something that I realized about my father very, very early in my coming to terms with the abuse, was that my father never saw me as a person. And at 35 years old, I can say now he still doesn't. I am
Yeah.
an item. I am a thing that belongs to him. I am not a person. I don't have my own thoughts. I don't have feelings. I don't have my own ideals. I am just this thing that is tangentially related to him through blood. I am an item in which he owns. And I have seen so many parents think that way about their children. Their children is an object that they own. It's not a human life, a human mind that they are supposed to be cultivating into the next generation. They're not supposed to be letting them be. You're not supposed to make a clone of yourself. You're supposed to make an individual who is empathetic, who is healthy. So when I was tasked with taking care of my goddaughter, um, I never I don't think I've ever raised my voice to her
Yeah.
for anything she's done wrong. She's 17 now. And she's done
Uh,
some things that I'm not particularly pleased of. There
yeah.
was an incident that she had, and she was distraught. She was crying. She was upset. And I looked at her and I said, "You made a mistake. You feel sorry about it. You're not going to let this happen again. But most of all, I need you to know there is nothing on this earth that you can do that will make me love you less.
Yeah. No, and that was,
There's
same
nothing."
with my kids. Like, I know I yelled at them. Especially when my son was older in his teen years, and he was like, we got it never got to like a physical thing, but like it would be like he would push my buttons in a way that just like would rile me up, and I knew that it was not great, and afterward, I was just like, look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have reacted that way. You know, you got the better of me, and it's not going to change how I feel about you. And for the most part, it seems like my kids are still um love me just as much as they did. Maybe there's some resentment in there. I don't know. They haven't expressed that, but we've always tried to keep everything open and in communication.
See, yes. And you know what? That's good. And I think that that's also a thing. Like, yes, sometimes, yeah, you may snap at your kid. You may they
Yeah,
get the better of you. The most important thing is
because
about
kids are
you
really
sitting
good at
down.
that.
Oh yeah. But it's just like the one of the most important things that you can do as a parent is sit down with yourself and
Yeah.
say, why did I react like that?
Yeah. I
And
used to be
and look at your
super
child.
grumpy. Yeah.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
look at
Go
your
ahead.
child
Sorry.
and say, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that I reacted that way. An apology to your child, a well-meaning apology
Mm-hmm.
and changed behavior is so
Yeah.
much, is so, goes such a long
It goes a
way
long way.
to
Yeah.
building a relationship with your child, a healthy one, that even when you make a mistake, as long as you acknowledge that you make a mistake, it's not just, well, I'm your parent, so whatever I do is right.
Yeah.
That forms a healthy relationship with your child because it makes them realize that you acknowledge that you did them wrong
Yeah.
and
Well, it's
that
the
you are able to talk to them about it as a person.
yeah, like it's with my own mom, like that relationship got damaged and it has never fully re-healed and it never will. Because, whereas we did eventually have a big sit down conversation and everything and tried to hash things out, it had been, I want to say 20 years of
Mhm.
damage that had been done. And it's like my kids have no relationship with her, like no relation, like my kids have no relationship with anybody in our families because our families are just very toxic and
Mhm.
and it's something we strive to remove ourselves from. We tried for a long time to um make it work, but after a certain point we were like, no, we gotta get out of here, we gotta leave the area. Like we literally left. We used to live out west. We moved to Georgia like 11 years after we got married. So you know that was, like I said, now we're been together. We're coming up on our 29th anniversary this year. And so I mean, we've been here 18 years. Is that right? Yeah, 18 years. Um, and the kids have grown up without that family and knowing, and we never really told bad stories, but we just made them aware of what was going on. So that they would
Yeah.
understand and they could make their own choices later on in terms of whether they wanted to have relationships with anybody. Um, and they don't because they know, and they've been
Yeah.
around it and they've grown up and have heard some of it themselves and everything else. So it's not worth it for them. And it like I said, it doesn't. I can be perfectly fine not having a relationship with my mom because that got broken and never got repaired well enough. I can have conversations with her here and there, but we rarely talk, maybe once a year. And then, but I don't feel that way with my kids. I would feel so bad if I didn't get to talk to my kids at all. Like,
Yes.
and that they felt that way about me. And so I have strived so hard not to be that parent, because I can't fathom that treating my kids so poorly that they would have nothing to do with me. Now my son, he's off, he's 2 hours away now, but and he doesn't call all the time and everything, and he's got my only grandchild. but um but they're living their life, and so I can't be upset about that. When I do call them, everything's great. It's just like a regular grandparent, grandchild experience. Now I got to live with them for 4.5 years, which is great. But now they've moved on and doing their own thing and everything. And again, it just I I'm glad that I can have the relationship that I have with my kids. And getting back to the movie, just that, I can't
But
imagine anybody doing that to their children. And thankfully, like I said, for myself, I didn't experience abuse on that level. I did get spanked, but I never saw it as like my parents were never physically abusive. I didn't get hit or like randomly hit or whatever, like if I did something wrong or whatever. They were My mom, not even my dad, but my mom was manipulative,
Mhm.
and used guilt really well. And that was
Yeah,
the major thing that I
but
have scars from, is the mental abuse more than anything.
of course. And you know what? That rounding back to the movie, yeah. So that's one of the reasons why the segment Boys Do Get Bruised is so very important because it leads to conversations like we just had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those conversations are important for us as individuals to grow and learn and be. better individuals and be better for our children and give them the lives that they deserve. Because what that movie is, what that segment is truly asking you as an individual, are you okay with being a monster in your child's eyes? Are you okay with being their monster? And
Right.
I want people to think about that. And I want the answer to be no. I don't want to be a monster in my child's eyes. I don't want my child to see me as a villain, as a creature, as anything but a safe place to be, um, where my child can feel completely comfortable throwing me away
Yeah.
one day because it's the safest option for them. Because that's what has to be done at the end of the segment. Walter has to crumple up that drawing and Sissy stomps on it and they burn it
Yep.
and Carl is gone. And it's just like, are you okay with your child throwing you away?
Yeah.
Because that is the only option that you have left them for their own sake. It's just like, it may not happen when they're children. It probably won't happen with their children because they still need you.
Right.
But when you're an adult, when they're an adult and they're starting their own family, are you okay with not having that relationship with your children? Are you okay never seeing your grandchildren because you're not a safe place? They don't want their children around you. It's just like that is the thing that at the end of the day, when you watch that segment, it's just like, and you think about it, are you okay with being your child's monster? And you need to tell yourself, no, I don't want to be that monster. And you need to look into the ways that you no longer will be that if you see yourself in this. Now, this is a very severe situation in terms
Yeah.
of like this is out and out full on abuse. Um, like this is just like abuse of the mother, abuse of the child. It's an abusive household. Um, this is like, the worst case scenario. And people don't quite see it unless it's this bad as it is depicted in the film. People don't see it that way. Um, because I remember, I think I told you about this personally of when I was in my public speaking course and I made my final project about how we should no longer physically discipline children. And a girl in my class disagreed with me and cited cultural reasons. And when I checked her profile, I saw that she was a Black woman. And
Huh.
it's just like, we are from the same culture. We are from the same culture. And if I can shuck it off, so can you. We are from the same culture.
Right.
We are from the same thing. And it's just like, you are not telling me anything that I will agree with. It's just like, you can't. And it's just like, especially when I have given you a ton of proof about how much it hurts your kid, like
Yeah.
mentally causes damage to your child. Um, but yeah, like her citing culture at me was just like,
Yeah.
it was like one of the things where it's just like, it was just like,
Abuse is not
I hate
culture.
that.
Like
Yeah,
just
abuse
like
is not culture. Hitting your
abuse is
child is
not
not
culture.
culture.
Yeah.
It's not
Like it's
cultural. It's just like we chose that. And I feel like
yeah.
sometimes it's because we as a community feel like we have to be harder on ourselves and on our children because there is so much stigma
Well,
if our children act up, if our children if we are presented not to be the best parents, like I feel like that it's just like there's a lot of remnants of, you know, slavery and other things in that where it's just like where that's generational trauma that has carried
right.
down from the moment we got here. And I know that, like, I'm sure that there is very similar things with like white people because like there is the religious aspects to that
Yeah.
have carried over into white families. Like I've seen that Train Up a Child book. Uh,
Yeah.
one of the worst things I've ever seen. Um,
But here's the
and
thing
it's
that I
just
think
like,
is interesting about what you're saying too, is that like as a culture, the world is already hard enough. Society,
mhm.
on top of that, is already hard on you. You don't need to be making it harder on yourselves. And this is just for a completely outside viewpoint. I'm not one to say, hey, don't do something or whatever like that. But just I just that's how I think that, and it's something that it's going to be generational. It's just like it is for a lot of us white folk who have tried to push that off and try to change things. How while there is still abuse, I don't feel it's as prevalent as it used to be, or at the very least, those who are doing it are hiding it more, I guess. Whereas it used to be more open, because people like when I was growing up in the '80s, we were getting smacked in the grocery stores,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
know that still happens, but you don't see it as much,
no.
because there is a lot of society has changed enough that we don't
It's not
allow
acceptable for
that
you to do that yeah,
in
that's not an
public.
acceptable
Yeah,
level of behavior to perform in public.
right.
Um, but now it's like, but it still happens behind closed doors, and that's where the most
Yeah,
damage occurs. Um,
yeah.
but it's definitely one of those things where it's just like there are people who are more than willing to put in the work. Like I see so many like black people, definitely a lot of black women, but I have seen some really amazing black men out there talking about like unlearning that behavior,
Mm,
unlearning those thoughts, and how it has healed, not only made them a better parent, but is healing them of their trauma of I am not my parents. I am not these things that happen to me. I am my own person, and I am going to be better for my child. Um, because that's one of the things that I've seen where when a parent is being incredibly rough and mean and antagonistic to their child, where they say, the world is not kind, the world is not easy. And it's just like, but why won't you be?
yeah,
And it's just like,
exactly. Like,
you be
can you be?
kind.
You need to be that island in the storm of everything else. Like, just because the world isn't like that doesn't mean you should be doing that also. Like, hey, yeah, just
Yeah, no, it's
that
just like
hurts me.
you need to not be your child's first bully. That is
Yes, absolutely.
so important. But yeah, I feel like I feel like that is the conversation that should be had about boys do get bruised, but I feel
Yes.
like it is a conversation that was better fueled by Mr. Crockett. Mr. Crockett addresses that so well.
Well, I think that's because, again, society has changed since the 90s. The 90s were
Oh
still
yes, incredibly.
holdover from the 80s and everything else like that. The 90s feels like when things finally started to change, but it still took to the late 90s, early 2000s till we really started to seeing these more societal changes in terms of families and abuse and all this other stuff. And so I think, yes, Mr. Crockett is 100% a much better exploration of that in terms of the way that it can, like, and this is in general, I think storytelling itself has changed a lot since the late 90s to now in terms of what we can say. I don't know, things feel, at least for mainstream stuff, feels more sophisticated than it used to. Like, we're not dumbing things down as much as it felt like when you go back and look at things. There's a lot of dumb shit, and and that's not that there's not a lot of dumb shit now. I mean, we have all the reality shows, but it feels like the reality shows kind of took all the dumb shit things and all the narrative things are mostly better. Not always, but mostly better. So, especially the things that become popular and or that we have a lot more. And again, horror is a great vehicle for social issues. It's a very good way for people to,
Fantastic.
yeah, for people. And this is the reason why I like horror as a genre more than anything,
Mhm.
is because you can tell every kind of story in horror. You can tell comedies, action, science fiction, dramas, and everything like that. But you add that horror tinge to it, and especially with this movie itself, you're adding this horror tinge to something to make it more, um, like I've said, palatable for the mainstream audience. Something that people will go into and watch and go, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be a fun horror movie," and then they're like social issues, and it's like,
Yes.
okay, this is good. Like I'm getting to see some stuff that's interesting and fun, but also some social issues that maybe I'm not quite as up on. So I
Yes.
think that again, that's
It's
that what helped. So go ahead.
horror movies definitely are like this is actually something that I examined when I was writing my paper regarding um gender and sexuality, uh, gender identity and sexuality, and the horror community. Of horror is an excellent vehicle for packaging in um, very serious subject matter. Because it allows people to have like kind of like a buffer to
Mm-hmm.
engage with these very serious subject matter issues. Um, in like kind of like a safety filter. Like it's just like I can engage with
Right.
this without becoming too overly like it allows you to think. It gives you room to consider these things. Um because like I've heard a lot of people, horror is not particularly political or anything like that. And it's just like I can tell uh, specifically one popular horror director about a very popular movie, a horror series that happens to have three movies and it isn't about a clown, uh, said something very similar to it. And it's just like, I can sit there, sir, and point out some very political things about your films, despite the fact that you have desperately tried
Yes.
to avoid that avoid that narrative in your films. That's not how humans work. Like these things will appear whether you mean them to or not. Um, like
Yes.
let's talk about like as an example, Saw, um, or the movies that clearly inspired this particular director, like the torture porn films of the early aughts, the New French Extremity of a similar time. Um, all of those movies, fairly political, um, but not in ways that you would immediately recognize. Like we're not talking blatant discussion of the healthcare system, such as like Saw 6. I'm talking about the initial Saw, Hostel, and not in the ways that like made Hostel how do I put it controversial, where people were concerned about the American perception of other countries. There is a book. It's an amazing book called Millennial Nasties,
Yes.
by Ariel Powers Schwab, where she instead of taking the term torture porn and calling it millennial nasties, which I actually do love that term to pieces
Yes.
over torture porn.
Absolutely.
That is a fantastic term, but not just because I love video nasties as a thing. Um,
Ariel
where
has been on
she
the show
spec-
several times, and including talking about that book, which
excellent.
I am quoted on the back of the hardcover.
Oh,
So,
wonderful. I have a digital copy. She was referenced in my paper, so
oh, great,
thank you,
great,
Ariel. Um,
yeah.
where she discusses how these movies were a reaction to 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
How the we had this horrible, violent act occur in our view. We watched it happen. We watched these people die on the news,
Right.
and it was terrifying. It was horrific. Like, it is a generational trauma of school children who remember that day of sitting in
Yeah.
their classes just watching this happen. And I would say it's a countrywide trauma as well. Now, I would say that there are some people who reacted to that trauma in the worst possible way imaginable. Um, worst possible way. Uh, by becoming xenophobic and blatantly racist. The worst kind of reaction.
Yeah.
But in terms of horror, uh, Ariel poses that we went from these campy uh, slasher films, these meta narratives of the 90s, to this dark and gritty and just depressing and desolate ideals because we had seen something in real life that was so traumatic, so horrific that like we didn't know how to react truly. Um, so we responded by making our horror movies these horrific things that like somehow were less awful than what we were experiencing in real life.
Yeah.
Now, I could say many things about the incredible ableism of Saw, and I'm not going to at this moment. And don't let anybody think that I don't absolutely love Saw films. I do. I love all of them except for Jigsaw. That one just makes me mad.
And
But
most people don't like Spiral, which is interesting.
I
So
really like Spyro. I really
I
like
thought
Spyro.
Spiral was great.
I
Yeah.
thought that it was a really refreshing direction. Like it went back to kind of the detective story of the root of it.
Yes.
We had
Yeah.
been missing for a while. Like I really liked that. Um,
And
and
Chris
you
Rock
know
and Sam
this
Jackson, that's winning
that was
combination right
really
there.
really one of my main concerns is more Sam Jackson. I needed
But he did
more
great.
Sam Jackson.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
One of my main concerns, but like I found that a very refreshing film. But like I love them. I even love that they're like I love the ones where they start getting real bad. Like the worst of the worst for me, other than Jigsaw, is the Saw 3D. Like that one's the worst. Because that movie is weirdly sexist. Like in just so weirdly sexist. And it's not
Mm.
like the movies before that had been better, but it's just like, do any of you
Yeah.
know how to call Jill her real name, or is bitch all you know how to call her?
Yeah.
And then she dies anyway.
Yeah.
And it's just like, also, why did her titty have to be out? That wasn't necessary. Nobody else died that way. But
Yeah.
like, anyways, it's just like, move you would not look at Saw and initially think, oh, that's political. You wouldn't look at Hostel and think that's political. You just think it's some insanity for insanity's sake. It's just supposed to be gory. It's just supposed to be upsetting, but it's so much deeper than what you see on the surface. There's so many things to it. Um, I like in also with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, things like back then, Scream. These move art is political, even
Yeah.
when people don't want it to be. It just is, because art is a representation of a human being's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. You will be holding a mirror up uh, to yourself, and it's just very funny because Saw is made by two Australian people.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So that is one of the biggest examples I can say, like in terms of and Tales from the Hood has the benefit of being openly political.
Right.
It is blatantly so.
Well, and let's get to the most political part of this movie,
Yeah.
which is the KKK
Everybody, it's just like,
comeuppance.
yep. And everybody, you thought you heard me talk before. You about to really hear me talk.
So yeah, so this is
If
about a former a former Ku Klux Klan member, former quote unquote former, who is now a Southern senator who's running for governor, and
and he's quite
he's
clearly David Duke.
yeah, oh yeah, no, his name is Duke Metger,
Yeah, he's quite
and
clearly
yeah,
David Duke.
yeah, and so he's set up his office in this old slave plantation, which was owned by a former ancestor of his. Um, and basically, the whole tale of this is that the sins of the past come back to bite him in the ass because the former owner, his ancestor, when uh, the Civil War was ending, instead of freeing the slaves, he killed them all. And
Mhm.
so all the souls went into these dolls that this woman named Miss Cobbs transferred their souls into these dolls. Um, and these dolls, or one in particular, is come back to really mess up this guy's life,
Mhm.
uh, which is
Mhm.
because this guy is unrepentantly racist. And just and very well played. I will give it up to any actor who has to play something like this when you know that they're not like this in general. Somebody like Corbin Burnson, which I've heard nothing but good things about, despite
Yeah, I
the
was going
kinds
to
of
say
roles he likes to play.
despite the roles that he takes on, I have never heard any
Yeah,
negative things about him. And if there are, like, it's obviously like so
you
insular
would.
that it's never gotten
Yeah,
out to the wider community in the
it's not like
many, many
James.
years he's been working.
Yeah, it's not like James Woods literally playing a character very much like his own self in the movie Ghosts of Mississippi.
Yeah.
So when you find out how much James Woods is like that character, that makes you sick to watch that movie now.
Yeah,
So makes
it
me
makes me
sick to watch that
uncomfortable.
movie.
It
Yeah.
makes me uncomfortable. Um, Yeah, also I skipped over the section in my head. This is not the one where I have a lot to say. Because I just find this one fun.
This
This
one, I think
is
this one is
this one
fun.
is supposed to be
I think this
just
one,
a
yeah, this one is
nice
the most
arts.
fun because this one is the most, I think everybody can't relate to it, but it's the one I think that we all understand the most in
Mhm.
terms of we all know there are people like this guy who are racist, who run for political office, who are in political office, and with still to this day, we still have these people in office. And so I think that getting his comeuppance in this way with the past coming back to haunt him and everything like that, I think that's great. I think this is the most like in a way the most general audience, most crowd pleasing of it and the most fun because it's just little dolls is very puppet mastery,
Mhm.
in terms of these dolls attacking him and everything like that. And there's no there's no as much as there's the deep meaning to it and everything like that. I think it's one of those this is one of those ones that has been told multiple times in terms of the black community. We've seen slave stories and this kind of stuff before, so we already kind of understand that.
Yeah, we're
And
already on
yeah,
Doll's side. We are primed from the beginning to hate Metzger. We are primed to begin with to hate him. Like we are
yeah,
not we know who the villain is. And I also think that this was a very important how do I put this? Uh palate cleanser, so to speak, between
yeah,
the last story and what is about to come. Because the last story is definitely the this is where you, if you were having fun before, you're not having fun anymore. Um,
Yeah.
it's very serious. And this one is less like that's one of the things I kind of do really appreciate about like kind of the way the story the stories are stacked. It's it's a interracial issue, intra-racial issue,
Yeah.
interracial issue, intra-racial issue. Um, like it really just kind of covers like a wide range of concerns that were very prescient in the moment, still are now, because it's not like we had didn't have like a whole it's not like actually I'm not even gonna say had, we have literal Nazis
Yeah.
in our government. Like they are
Yeah.
Nazis. And like not even just like I'm not saying that as like a cover term for fascists. There are fascists in there. There's Nazis in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Yeah.
specific kind of fascist of a
Yeah.
Nazi. Um, and it's just like I I I can't begin to like con co conceptualize of how um just how much beloved KKK comeuppance is in the community. Like we have memes of the doll. Uh we have jokes. And it's very much well done. But also I love it's a very tiny thing in the film, but Miss Cobbs, the Hoodoo Witch, she is Rusty's mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's his mother. I think that's wonderful. Like this representation of our past and our roots, our culture, our faith is his mother. And it's just like, and you can see that that's like it was very intentional casting where it's just like this the things that like are very deep in him are from his mother.
Right.
Like it's very meaningful that she's Mrs. Cobbs and Miss Cobbs instead of just hiring any old actress. Also, the movie cost like $6 million to make, so it did not have a
Yeah.
very big
Yeah.
budget. And it only made like $11 in the initial, like 11.8, something like that. Like roughly like maybe 12 million. So double its budget, so a success, but like, just not very well received. I think it's beautiful. Like I think that now it's a lot more something that's more appreciative because there was still a lot of stigmatization around traditionally black faiths rooting from our origins.
Mm-hmm.
And there still is like you've seen the demonization of hoodoo, of voodoo
Oh yeah.
itself. Like you've seen that like represented in so much of society.
Right.
Um, even like even when it was stylish in The Princess and the Frog, like played by Keith David, an extremely well beloved actor who loved the part he played, and like they made the villain very stylish because Disney villains are stylish, and over the top. It's still demonizing our faiths that came with us.
Yeah.
Um, and this is like probably one of the first representations that I probably saw where that faith was used as a weapon, yes, but weapon for our own good instead of it being a weapon forged against other people for the sheer strictness of evil. And I think that's like, oh, I think that's a wonderful thing, like about this particular story, like in the most positive parts of it.
Yeah.
Is that this representation of hoodoo is, despite the fact that um it is being used as revenge, it is being used as like everything like that, it's still in assertion and protection of our future generations because Metger is a threat to us, and our ancestors saw that and protected us.
Right.
And I think that's the beautiful part of it. Like, and I know that's probably maybe not the thought that was had at the time, because, like I said, a lot of thoughts have changed around the time. I can't say for sure that that was or wasn't Rusty's intention.
Right.
But like now, that's how I see it. And I think that I would like to believe that other people also do see that too. Um, but I'm unsure. But I think that's one of the nice things about it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think you're on the right track with that for sure. And I think, she did what she could to save the souls of those people who were killed, and I think that being able to do that and was a great thing for them as well as for her, and just being able to survive that kind of, and to be eventually potentially able to, you know, get some kind of resolution, even if it is revenge.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, some kind of repercussion for
yeah.
what was done to you. It's like you eliminated our bloodlines, we take yours.
Yeah.
This is now mutually assured destruction.
Right.
Um,
Well,
but now it's time for the big one.
yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the last segment, hardcore convert, where a gangster who is shot in the streets uh, after he's killed somebody and thrown into jail, but then is given the chance to get out of jail if he participates in this experimental trial. And basically, what he has to do is to get behavior modification
Hmm.
and and be shown. Basically, he's shown all these terrible images of white supremacy um and photographs of like people being killed, like black people being killed, and gang violence and everything, and including his own things that he did. And then
Hmm.
he's confronted by, the souls of his of the people he's killed.
And he
Um,
refuses to
and he
repent
ends up
for what he's done.
refusing to repent. Yep. And so then you find out that at the end he was just imagining it, and it's just before his death. Um,
Yeah.
so he it's pretty intense, for
It is
sure.
a
And
very intense storyline.
I feel like it's the most, in a way, it's kind of the most out there because it's more like science fiction horror in a lot of ways.
Kind
Um,
of. Kind of,
yeah.
yes.
And
Um,
but I do think it's interesting that she does give him the chance to repent and change his ways, and that because he refuses, he and takes no, like,
no responsibility
no
and won't
responsibility for
ask for
anything.
forgiveness for what he's
Yeah.
done.
And so, yeah, it's different. It's so he doesn't, he refuses, and so then he's just back where he was. And like that's interesting in that aspect, because you do, like, there are people like that. There are definitely people who repent their actions and who have done horrible things, and um in moments of stress or whatever, and they've done really terrible things, but then they've gone on to you know take the consequences of their actions and then have made something better of themselves. But there
Yes,
are a
and
lot
you
of
see
times where
you
they're,
see so many examples of that. Like there's an entire like YouTube there are YouTube channels
yeah,
devoted to people who have gotten out of gang life or have come out of prison and done better for themselves. Um
yeah,
and
absolutely.
Now, this is the one that I have. I clearly have had a lot to say about a lot of this movie, but this one, I have a significant amount. And luckily, everybody listening, Robert knew that I was going to talk about this, and I'm going to mention something. And if you have any particular issues with what I bring up, this isn't Robert. You can direct it at me. I'll get on Twitter to address any concerns you may have, anything like that. Y'all seem like good people, and I don't think that that's really going to be an issue. But I'm about to drop a name that you might be that some of you might be familiar with, and I want you all to know that this is my personal feelings and not Robert's. Um, so this is very much a storyline that discusses intra-racial issues of gang violence, of how it affects our community. Now, there is a long and deep history behind gangs in the Black community and how it affects us. And it is something we have been working on. There are many, many organizations working to help people get out of this lifestyle, or not be as involved in this lifestyle. Like, and sometimes that doesn't even work because there are musicians, popular musicians who have come through that gang lifestyle and no longer are affiliated, but because of the things that they did while they were affiliated, they have been killed. There are people, a main example would be Nipsey Hussle, a musician who I don't particularly care for. Um, he was murdered years ago because of previous gang affiliations. There was another musician more recently. I don't know his name. I didn't know him. I wasn't familiar with his music. So this is something that is deeply, deeply um, in our community. It is a main concern. It is a problem. And I'm okay discussing this issue in my community among other Black people. At the beginning of the episode, I said that I'm okay with discussing the collective boot on our necks when you get yours off mine. This is one of those situations. I will not
Hmm.
discuss this as a interracial issue, because it is never a conversation that is had in good faith. It is
No.
never, ever, ever brought up in good faith. It just turns into another what about Black on Black violence conversation. We are trying to discuss systemic issues that affect
Hmm.
us. And this gang violence, gangs in existence are a result of those systemic issues. They exist because of those systemic issues. I'm not willing to have that conversation with oppressors. I won't. It's not something I'm willing to have. So, Rusty having this conversation, putting it in his movie, discussing this, he is a Black man. He is personally affected by this. Has probably seen this in his life, and he has something to say about it. And I am perfectly fine with him putting that forward. It is a discussion he deserves to have, especially around the time that this movie came out, because there was a very large surge of this particular issue. But there is something that occurs in this portion, um, during Crazy K's the attempt to essentially reprogram him. They put actual lynching photos in the movie. If you have not seen the movie, that is something that I do feel that you need to know. Anybody
Yeah.
needs to know. There are real lynching photos. Now, I don't know if you know the history of lynching photos.
I do.
I can guarantee you not a single lynching photo has ever been taken by an individual, like by a person who is like a family member of the victim.
Yeah.
Those were typically taken as souvenirs reminders of the celebration of the taking of our lives because we were less than human to them. And despite the fact that I do not love their inclusion in the movie, it is also, again, Rusty as a black man that is part of our history. And I am open to him having included that because it is his prerogative to do so. I then this was long before the days of content and trigger warnings, where you get to be told a more detailed summation of what a movie or piece of media contains that may cause you upset or cause you a psychological issue. So when you first see this, you will not uh, be 100% sure what you've seen, but trust me, you, after a few minutes, you do know what you're looking at. And I want to guarantee you those are real photos. Those are real people. They are victims. My concern, because this is the one thing that I have seen from one particular creator, and it was years ago, but it is the reason why I do not engage with this creator anymore. I do not know how familiar people are with the Dead Meat podcast and particularly their segment on YouTube called The Kill Count.
Mm.
But they did an episode um, for Tales of the Hood, which is understandable. And the host at the beginning says there's disturbing content. He does not tell you what the disturbing content is. He does not warn people of what they're about to see, and he does not censor the photos. I don't know if that has changed in years past. It was years ago when this happened. But I'm not willing to go back and check.
Yeah.
That's just a view of mine that I am not willing to give. I'm not okay with a white man standing there discussing this story about our interracial community issues, showing off photos of our murders, and then and then talking about the later uh, inclusions of the Tales of the Hood series and talk about how they don't have enough both sides conversation
What
of it.
the? Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that. I'm not
There is no both
comfortable with that.
sides with this. Oh my God.
Yeah, like it's not that it puts too much focus on white people bad over we have issues within our own community. And it's just like that's not a conversation you get to have with me.
No,
That's not a conversation you get to have with any of us.
that's not a conversation. Yeah, that's not a conversation we should be having anyway.
Mhm. I am not okay with that. But
No,
I am
I'm
especially
not
not okay
okay
with
with
the
that.
fact that, yeah, but I am particularly not okay with not the with what not censoring those photos and not warning people ahead of time about them. Because I know what they are. I've seen them outside of the film. I know what they are.
Yeah.
Those are people. They are people. I may not know their names, but those are people. Those are my ancestors. Those are my, essentially, they could be my family. I don't know. They could be any black person's family. You don't know. That photo was taken as a souvenir to further demean and diminish their humanity. You don't get to stand in front of me and talk about that like objectively. Like it's not personal to you. It's not personal to you. It doesn't mean anything to you. It's just a scene in a movie to you, but that's my history.
Yeah.
Those are our families. Like they didn't just take those photos, they would take their skin and turn them into bags. There's a book they used to eat us. We have been less than in history for so long. And for a white creator to stand there, tell me some kind of both sides bullshit, and then like that happened later. Like he showed the later, like obviously he did a series of them. He brought up the both sides, not enough like medium discussion stuff in them. Like when he did the sequel. But yes, he did it. It does discuss. It's more interracial than intra because
Mm,
it was at the height. It was during the Black Lives Matter movement.
yeah.
We had focus about the systemic oppression of our people under white supremacy. That is the focus. So I'm sorry if you are comfortable with the narrative of white man bad. I'm sorry that it wasn't enough. Both sides are have issues for you or someone else. And I am saying this as a general you, not just to James, but as to a viewer as a whole. You can think that Tales from the Hood 2 and Tales from the Hood 3 are bad movies. Uh that's a valid take. They're not as good. But you don't get to tell me about the nuances of conversation that you are not part of and you do not understand. I won't engage. This, the hardcore convert part, is directly a conversation in our community. It is
Yeah.
discussing the history of violence we have experienced and the history of the violence that we have inflicted upon ourselves and how it continues. It is a discussion amongst us. And it is a conversation, trust me, we are having many times with many people all year round. And trust me, we are doing our best. We just don't need to bring you in on that conversation. But when a black man wants to put his trauma on screen, it is not for you to judge because you do not know his trauma. You don't get to tell him, oh, you discussed your inter community trauma. Oh, why your inner the trauma of your community that you discuss, your drama, your problems, and you spoke about that openly. But now you want to talk about the larger community, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair for you to have
No.
brought that up. And it's just like I don't think it's fair for you to discuss that and not put your trauma on the shelf for all of us to look at. And it's just like he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to. Not for
No,
you.
this is a movie made by black people for black people and a wider audience for those who choose to go see this movie.
Mhm.
And you can interact with it, but you have to know going into it that this movie's not made for white people in that way, in that same way, especially this segment itself is not
Yeah.
made for us to necessarily to yes we can talk about it. I can talk about it. I can talk about the aspects of it that I think are relevant or whatever in a conversation with you.
Hmm.
But I think again, I think when white people get together and they talk about these racial things like this, I think that's where you lose the plot. And that's why
Hmm.
I think it's so important to talk to somebody like you, like with you and I. You're black, I'm white. We are having this conversation. And we can have this conversation in a way that makes sense to both of us and respects each other in those
Hmm.
ways and understands where each of us are coming from as long as I'm never going to both sides this thing because this is stupid that both sidesing things are stupid when it comes to crap like this. So it's just
Yeah.
like it's like I don't understand where they would even come at with that. They That's
Like
something again, before
the
you
him
even make that
standing there.
episode, they should have gone to somebody and said, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing with this particular movie. Do you have notes?" And
Hmm.
then that way that you don't put out something that is like that and causes that kind of backlash against you in that way, and that shows that you're willing to learn and that you're willing to
Mm.
be open to those discussions beforehand, not just after the fact and then trying to just push it aside. Oh, well, that's, whatever, both sides, whatever. That's bullshit. Both sidesing things is always, no, it's not
Yeah.
going to happen. It's bullshit.
Like to have someone look at me and say that the Tales from the Hood 2 lacks the nuance of hardcore of Tales from the Hood 1. You don't even know what that nuance is.
Yeah.
You don't get to tell me that it lacks nuance. You don't know. What do you know? You
Yeah.
know basics. You know what Rusty and Darren put on the screen in front of you. You know news articles, but you have never lived our lives. You have never experienced what we experienced. You have never seen what we see. You do not know nuance. There is nuance in this conversation you cannot even begin to dream of, and you are not educated enough to have that conversation with me. And even if you were, I am not willing to have it with you. I'm
Absolutely.
not willing to discuss my community's issues with someone who's not part of it. Because what can you do for me? What can you do for us? Nothing. Because you haven't yet. You haven't,
Yep.
there is nothing you can do that can benefit us. You cannot build us up. You cannot. You doing this only brings us down.
Yep.
And the lynching photos, like I said, you had no business showing those.
No, I don't even know why you would
No
even
one had
show
no
those on
business.
some. I don't even know why you would
No,
even show that when you're discussing the movie. That is such a one, it's a minor part of the movie. And two, there's no reason to
he,
bring it up.
he shows the scene in its entirety.
Ugh.
The scene in its entirety. And it's just like, that didn't need to be there.
No,
You
it
didn't
doesn't.
have
To
to
talk about this
show
segment,
that.
you don't need to even show that. You can discuss it. You can say that that happened, but beyond that, you shouldn't have said jack shit about it.
No. And it's just like, and the fact is, he never acknowledges what those photos are. Not once. I don't know if that's changed. I don't know if like they added a segment to the video.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
know.
worth going back and looking at. Yeah.
Like I said, it's not worth going back for me. But you said nothing. Nothing. He said nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just like I cannot, it's just like he does not realize that he has perpetuated our dehumanization in that way
Mhm.
by stripping it of all context, of all understanding, and not even paying the most cursory of lip service to what he just put on the screen. He has dehumanized us more. And that you should not be able to re victimize 100-year dead people. They are victims. And no respect was given. And I would argue that Rusty didn't show them proper respect either.
Yeah,
But
that
that
is,
is,
but
but
it's
that, like I
his.
said, it's history.
Yeah.
It's his history. That's his trauma. I can't tell him how to handle his trauma. I can't do that. But it's not James A. Janice's trauma. It's
Right.
not his to show and ignore. It wasn't. And it
No,
made me angry. It makes me angry right now, like angry to the point that I could cry
no, I can hear it in your voice.
because because it's just like we have these photos exist. We have these photos. Emmett Till, videos of George Floyd dying,
Yeah.
of Eric Garner, Philando Castile, uh, Brianna. I have a list of lynching videos that get to live in my head not from 100 years ago, but from the last decade. They are just as valid as the ones who I don't have names for. It's dehumanizing that he did not say anything, that he did not respect us enough to say something because that didn't mean anything to him, but it meant something. It means something to us. It still means something to us because it hasn't stopped. It's just, it's awful. And my point is, if you are a person who is not black, but specifically if you are white, I need you to, when you go into these films and you want to discuss them, I need you to do so in good faith. I need you to understand that you do not have the knowledge of experience of living the life of the people who this movie is aimed at. You don't know the nuance of this conversation. You do not understand what we do. We don't like they don't put it on the news how hard we work to for defeating gang violence, get people out of these situations, do better for our communities, make schools better so that children have opportunities so that's not the life that they have to go into. You don't have that context to discuss these things as if you understand them. You are welcome to do that research. You're welcome to educate yourself on that. That is one of the most wonderful things you could do, not just for the Black community as a whole, but for yourself to be aware of the world that you live in. But do not come to us, Black community as a whole, and tell us that we are not giving nuance when we discuss white supremacy because there is the gang violence issue, there is the black on black crime, because that is a diversion, that is a distraction. It is a result of the systemic issues. It is not the cause. You must understand the root of where that came from. And I still don't want to talk about it with you. And I want you to understand that this is not me being mean. This is just me being factual. It's not your place. You don't have that experience. You don't live this life. You do not have that facing you every day. So when you engage in movies like this, specifically from the past, that may not be as I'm trying to think of the word, may not cushion the experience as easily as maybe some movies would today. I need you to think critically about these things. And when you want to discuss them with somebody in the community, understand where it's time for you to stop. Like, understand the line. Robert and I have had this whole conversation this whole time, and you can see that Robert is respectful. Robert, you are a very respectful person. You're one of the few people that I actually do trust to have these conversations with.
I appreciate that. And, it's the reason why in large part, it's the reason why I do this podcast the way that I do it. Because as I've said before on other episodes, I am already a straight white man, and there are innumerable amounts of us already doing podcasts. Um, and if I can, one, help elevate other voices other than the kind that I already have, then one, that's great. And two, it's because I want to have those conversations. I
Mhm.
find value in talking to someone like you and the many other guests that I've had that don't fit the same demographic that I'm in. Because people are always going to have different, you know, perceptions and ideas than I have because they come from different communities. And so that's one of the main reasons why I like to do this in this way, because I feel it's important, you know, to always make sure that, especially in a topic such as this, with this movie and everything like that, that I talk to someone like you, because I know that I'm not going to have the necessary history and the necessary education, because like you said, I don't come from that community. I don't know these things. I only know what I can know from conversations
Mhm.
and looking up things online and in books and everything. But that only gets me so far. I'm never going to have that lived experience that you have, and that is important. And that's why, like I said before, anybody doing episodes like this needs to have someone of color on the show,
I
because
agree.
it's absolutely necessary to get that perspective and to shut up and let them talk, to be able to understand and let them have that voice.
Mhm.
Because again, I can agree all I want, but it doesn't take away, it doesn't add anything for my perspective necessarily. So
Yeah.
it needs to be a conversation with somebody like you. And you know, as we said in the beginning, you and I always have great conversations, whether they're
Yes.
the most goofy, dumbass conversations that we can have, or something serious like that, or somewhere in between where we have both. So,
Yeah.
you know,
But
and
I
that's,
just like
yeah.
one thing that I just want to again stress. When I was 10 or 11 is the first time I saw the picture of Emmett Till's body. And it has stayed with me my entire life. Not just the picture, but his story, especially when it came out years ago that the woman
Mm,
who accused
mm.
him admitted she lied.
And felt no shame about it either.
No, she admitted she lied. And it's just like, that is, they deface his memorial to this day. He was a child who did nothing wrong.
Yep.
And people shoot his memorial. It is regularly needing to be fixed. It's awful. There was somebody who did like an art installation where they did art of his body and they were not black. And I know that there is another community that has a very similar experience to mine because in school they show us Holocaust footage. They
Mhm.
show us footage from the Holocaust and photos, and it is traumatizing, especially I imagine for Jewish children who see that and know that those people are them. That's what somebody did to you. And I don't know many other communities who have to experience that, to be presented with how horrible humanity has been to you and the people who look like you or believe what you believe, have the same traditions as you, and you have been scapegoated for almost all of human history. And it's just like, and to be shown physical proof of your dehumanization in the form of a video of the mo of a body, a video of these poor people. and just realize they are humans just like you. They could be your family, they could be your friends. I've seen pictures of Emmett Till before he was killed. I have family members who look like him. I see children on the street who could look like him. He could be anyone, any one of us. It is dehumanizing to treat it as a learning aid or a moment that you just don't talk about in a movie that wasn't made for you. And it's just like because it's traumatizing, you never forget what that looks like. I guarantee people who are not Jewish, because I can only speak for myself in this situation, I still remember what the Holocaust footage looked like. That stays with you forever. It's traumatizing.
Yeah.
And even in respect to uh his non-black viewers, in terms of the kill count. You put traumatizing images in front of them. You put actual dead bodies in front of them, and you did not warn them, and you did not comfort them after, and you did not pay a lick of lip service to it. And you traumatized your audience. He traumatized his audience because you don't get to see a human being like that and it not stay with you. You've watched the movie, Robert.
Hmm.
You're going to think about that. That's in your head forever. And I warned you about it ahead of time
Yep.
because that's what I do for people who've never seen it. I don't let them go in blind, black or white, because that's something that stays with you. It was disrespectful not only to the black community, but to the dead meat community as a whole to do that to them.
Yeah.
It's horrific, but it's it's one of the reasons also why these movies are so goddamn important. And why conversations like the one you and I are having right now, Robert, are important because it's not something that a lot of people do have openly. I don't know if it was a conversation that happened after the episode with uh, the host and his community at
Yeah.
large. I don't know. Uh, I'm imagining not because, they got their little spot and scream,
Yeah.
but it's just the fact of the matter is I just want people to go into these and engage in good faith with Black cinema that is made for Black
Absolutely.
viewers. Now, Jordan Peele is of benefit where it's quite clearly that the films are for Black folks, but it is accessible to a wider audience. You don't need to be Black to enjoy Nope or Us. You
Right.
know, while they are unapologetically Black in nature, just on the grounds of the characters themselves, and their interactions and how they exist in the world. They, you don't need to be Black to understand the film. Get Out does have a little bit of that barrier, but it still
Right.
was enjoyed by a wider audience regardless. Award
Yeah.
winning, even.
Yeah.
Um, Tales from the Hood, on the other hand, is very insular. It is for a Black audience because at the time, that is who would have watched this film. He was never making it for like if white people watched it, that's great. But black filmmakers at the time knew who they were making their films for. Boys in the Hood was made for black people.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many films. Soul Food, black people. Black cinema was made for black people, and the fact that other non-black people enjoy it is just a benefit. But it was made for us. These are conversations that are part of our community. Um, they speak to our inner workings, that some people that a non-black audience would not have the context for. Like,
Right.
watch it. I hate to use this as an example, but like watching maybe a Tyler Perry, not necessarily a movie, but the original plays. Oh, I hate because I'm not a fan. Like I said, there's a spectrum. There is the Lena Wath to
Yeah.
Tyler Perry scale, and if you hit either end of that, you have gone too far. Um,
Yeah.
but but like it's there's things that you just don't understand because it's just like when a black person says God is good, another person may say that he is, or um, you know, amen, things like that. But I'll let any fellow black people in the audience finish off that sentence. uh, but it's just I wanted to talk about this. This is specifically the reason why I chose to discuss this film because
Right.
this movie is important to our community and to horror as a whole. And during Black History Month and in the state that our current existence is in, I need people to remember that we are humans just as you are, and that we have frequently been dehumanized. And I'm sure that a lot of other minorities in the audience, I'm sure anybody else who is queer, anybody else who is trans, women in the audience will understand that wholeheartedly. Anybody who meets any of those intersections will understand that, and will understand the need for our own stories and not having the wider lens of people who are not part of our community judge us off of what they think is correct when they don't know who we are and what we experience. That is
Right.
just how I feel.
Yeah.
So, like
Um,
I said, yeah, discussion, and now I officially relinquish my soapbox.
well, we can finish it off with just the last little segment of the what's been going on in the mortuary. It ties into the this previous segment here, whereas
Hmm.
these guys who are in this mortuary are the guys who killed Crazy K. And you find out that they were then uh killed by his associates, and that they are actually been dead this whole time. And that this mortician is actually Satan, and they're actually already in hell. It's kind of a weird ending, especially after such a heavy segment. I think there's kind of no place you can put that segment
Hmm.
and make it not this way. Um, I think that ultimately this epilogue to all this is just kind of a um this is the consequences of your actions kind of like situation that you know it's it's that this part of it is like a perpetuating a cycle of violence type of situation, and that
Hmm.
it only ends one way, and it ends in their deaths. um
Yes.
and so it's this ultimately becomes the movie itself becomes a cautionary tale in so many ways. Yes, there are revenge stories, but there's also the very heavy, because we get the only one that's kind of light-hearted-ish is the KKK comeuppance, and the rest all deal with very heavy subjects. But I would argue that the last one obviously is the heaviest, whereas the second one, um the abuse one, also
Yeah,
is
boys
pretty
do get
heavy.
bruised.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gets pretty heavy
because
as well. So
that was based on an incident from his childhood. He
yes,
had
yeah,
Rusty had gone to a friend's house, and he'd seen his friend's younger sister got gagged and hogtied in the basement,
in the basement,
and
yeah.
Yeah, and I was about to say, and I think like he had gone to his dad, who was a cop at that time,
Yeah.
and he said, "I can't mess with those whites,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So,
he couldn't even do anything to help it. And it's just like, while Rusty had translated that into a very different narrative than what he had experienced,
right.
it's I understand like that was the only way that he could process it. Um,
Yeah.
in his terms, because I don't think that it seems like he had very loving parents, as both
Yeah.
of them are in the film.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think that like that's how he needed to process that, because I can imagine that seeing something like that is traumatizing, especially when you come from a home full of love and you see something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think this ending is it tries to I think it's an ending that tries to give you a little bit of a come down from how heavy the previous segment is. And so while it's doing the whole thing about, your consequences, your actions have consequences thing and everything, that I think it's ending on this kind of what you could consider a fun note, more in the horror
Yeah,
vein, because he literally turns into Satan and the whole thing turns into hell and everything like that. That I think that it
it
just is a chance to relax a little bit right there at the end,
it also
after
helps that
everything.
Clarence's
Oh,
role is very over the top, very out there,
over the top.
very in
Yeah.
your face, and it's
Yeah.
what you need for these situations. Like, and I think that's why, like, in the sequel, they chose Keith David for to play
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Sims.
Yeah. I haven't seen the other two, but Keith David is always a delight to have in any movie. So,
Yeah,
I imagine
the
he was.
second one had pretty positive reviews. I just,
Yeah.
it's to me it wasn't as good, but it was met pretty positively. The third one, on the other hand, I think it
Yeah.
got really bad reviews.
Yeah.
Um,
But that, yeah, but that's just how the movie ends. I think it's a good movie. I think it's very topical of its time period, but also can be relevant to today, unfortunately, in so many ways.
mhm.
And I think it is a something that people should watch, and absorb, um, and reach out to black friends and talk to them about it, and just like I did today, um and get that perspective if you have questions, because I think that's always the best place to go to become educated, is to talk to the people of that community. That is the best possible way to get educated on stuff like this, and just
Absolutely.
be open to it, be open to the learning, because if you close yourself off and you're going to both sides things, you're not gonna get what you're not gonna get the necessary education, and um you're just going to be worse off in the end.
Truly, because like uh, I even have to go to other places because when I played the newer Wolfenstein games, I had some issues with them, and like I couldn't put my finger specifically on why, so I consulted a Jewish friend
Yeah.
to discuss my issues with that. Like there were some issues that as a black person I could address, but I'd rather speak to another Jewish person to a Jewish person and have them give me some information, some context,
Yeah.
so that like, I'm not coming at it the wrong place. And I feel like that's a good thing to do for just about anybody when you are looking at something from a different culture. Talk to the people. There's a
Yep.
lot of people who are, as long as you come about it respectfully, there's plenty of people willing to talk to you.
Yep.
If you come at it
Absolutely.
disrespectfully, they're going to hit you with a PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo link and tell you to
Yeah.
pay them for their time, or they're going to
Yep.
say Google is free.
Yep.
So just,
Yep.
come about it
No,
like in
agreed.
good faith. Good faith is
Good
what
faith.
the
Yep.
most important part.
Yep. Absolutely agreed. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up with that. And
Hmm.
Because we are closing in on the 3 hour mark for this episode. This one was a long one.
Holy.
Yeah, we've been talking a while.
Well,
So
I had a
we had a
lot to
lot
say.
to talk about. Yep, we had a lot to talk about. So, but thank you again. I always appreciate having you on. We'll have you on for a more lighthearted episode in the future,
Can't
so we can
wait.
have yeah, a little bit more fun with it. So,
Definitely. And I appreciate you bringing me on and giving me this opportunity to talk about it because this was
absolutely,
something I really felt strongly about, um,
absolutely.
as you can tell. Uh, in regards to that, everybody, Black History Month, donate to Vox Noir.
Yes, absolutely. Listen up. All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And we'll definitely be getting you on pretty soon here. I'll have to send you some more episodes that are available off air. So, um,
Surely.
yeah. So, but until then, stay creepy. Thanks for listening. Creepy and Geeky is produced and hosted by Robert Clark. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. You can follow the podcast by going to creepyandgeeky.com and clicking on any of the social links. If you'd like to follow me, you can find my links at geekthulu.com. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on Teepublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.